when they come, is to put the tap outside. So we have to carry on in a way that this unit can be added to power supply from one end and can be connected to the load on the other end. To connect the stacker to be in correct condition, you need to add your system in two new ways. And you need a connection to your power supply. If you connect as it is, your response power will not be that good, and the power supply can be erratic. So what you need to do is to add two units into the system. One unit here across the three plates, and one unit across the load or power supply. These units, what we call plasma capacitors, are essential. Otherwise, you will not create the condition to filter the system into plasma as you need it. So, what you need to do, you need, at a point where you connect your line or of the gravitational point of the first plate and the magnetical point of the last plate, you need to put 4 plasma capacitors in parallel with the load. This allows you to push the power and get synchronicity out of the set. You need the same set of 5 plasma capacitors in parallel with the power supply too. This way, the system responds totally on a balanced state. You need 5, or here in the power units which we deliver, you have 4. But 5 is much more practical. It's much easier to handle the power supply. So you made a stacker. Now you need to make yourself 8 or 9 capacitors, plasma capacitors. In Philippines, they are using conventional capacitors in that series. In Italy, we have used plasma capacitors. How you make a plasma capacitors is extremely easy. What you do, you take one of those nano bars which you made. You take a fire resistance paper. Fire resistance paper for you can do at home is the papers you use for baking, which you put at the bottom of the oven that they don't burn. You take the paste which we asked you to keep, and all you do, there are videos of this on the internet how to make capacitors. So all you do, you add a small amount of the GaNs in a paste, and all you do is rotate it or put it anti-clockwise. It's important to understand anti-clockwise into the paper. Then you see that what you need to do now is to produce, if you have done it, to make small coils which are tight enough that what you can do, again, anti-clockwise, you have to look in the direction of the position, and you put the tissue paper with a capacitor inside. This is a simple plasma capacitor you make, and you secure it and tighten it with insulation. This has to be insulated. So what you do, this should be totally tight, so you increase the tissue papers, and it has to be secured that it stays in position. This, what you put in, the simple wire, this is your negative point, your entry, and the other side of the coil is your exit. The way you position is the single piece wire gets connected to the line in parallel with each other. So what you'll have is 4 of these sitting in line with each other, and you connect all the negatives together, all the positives together using the wires you had, which you nano coated, and you connect them as one unit to the live line of your wire. If you make these 2 units, these 2 stacked units of parallel capacitors, you make another 4 for here on the same position, negative and positive to the line. So now what you need to do to build these capacitor units. These capacitor units are the key into being able to transfer the AC into a plasma capacitor into plasma condition power. The units which were given to the governments carries only 1 capacitor, and they could be dried up, but if we can replace it, or a unit will be sent to them. Because we've seen problem with a couple of them that they dried up in production. So the units are working, but they don't perform the way they should do. That's what happens. If you don't get a power unit out of your units when you receive it, this is the only point that the capacitors could be not working. But in the production, it has been looked after that this doesn't happen. So you have a very straightforward system with capacitors. So when you look, this is your wire, the simple wire. You added what you call the GANs. You covered it with a tissue paper of fire resistance, and then you added anti-clockwise. It's to do with my ring. Then you added an anti-clockwise coil on it. This is the negative point. This is the positive point. You put it in parallel with the line of power. I explained to you. Once you made it and is in that set, what you're going to have is just the coil, and you need 4 of them. Or 5 of them, and this was your center line, the single wire which came in. You connect the wires together this way. you connect these four together and you get a line from it. So now you made four parallel. This stays your negative and this stays your positive. So this is what sits there or sits there. Then the final stage when you made your parallel sets is connecting the final piece. The final piece will look like this. You have your stacker unit with the three stacker on it. The wire has come out there and you have a wire here. This is the end of this cable where you plug in. You plug in your wire to the power has a neutral and a live line. So what you do, you cut into the live line, you connect the negative of the system to it here. So what it is, your connection, the interface is on your live to the negative. Your capacitor has been set here. The capacitor set of the four sits along here. You have put a capacitor set here. You have put a capacitor. You have put a capacitor. What's happening? It's jumping. You have put a capacitor set along here. You connect, then your load to here. This is this wire. This wire which comes to the plug gets connected here. And your other wire gets connected back here. So this is your full set power unit. You connect this to a plug into the load, into the power supply, and this is your load. This is your power supply, and this is your load. This is a total structure for a power supply. This is the total blueprint. As I said, by today, we completed, and if you have managed to complete this, you should be able to connect. Make sure there is no moisture in your capacitor. It's dry enough, otherwise you get the sparks, and you can connect it to the load. What we've done, we have added a thermometer measurement system somewhere here, where if the wire gets heated, you get breaking of the circuit. Which means you cannot pass 2 kilowatts. So you have a safety that if you overload on this side, the line heating up your coil will disconnect you from the main. You cannot damage the system. It's set at 55 to 60 degrees. You need to put a thermometer at this point. This is what you have in the blue box. There is a possibility, very high chance. We not pre-announce it, but we have achieved what we were looking for, the first step of generators. Maybe by tomorrow we might be able to confirm. We were looking for resonance vibration of the plasma, totally using a plasma condition. I was talking 2 or 3 o'clock this morning with our people, and it seems that the system is working on a constant basis. So if we push it within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and what we see is correct, in the coming weeks, most probably you don't need this anymore. You become a self-sufficient power supply generator. Because to create the resonance, to create the resonance was the main problem. We've seen that we have achieved it. It's just a matter of enhancing it to be able to do the job of the supply resonance. And there's a possibility by tomorrow we announce a new development that you can extend the power of the unit to further loads than 2. Otherwise, we already have the unit, we found a solution. But if we see correct, we carry on the teaching of the Monday I'm not here. We carry on the teaching of the blueprint to next Tuesday, Wednesday, till people make their units and collectively we can demonstrate. So it's not that just we finish. A lot of people are making a lot of pieces around trying to get things together. So on Monday, there's a possibility that we close. It's the 1st of November on Sunday. Some people would like to have a Monday off because of the 1st of November holidays in Europe. And if not, teaching carries on internationally. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we go back on the blueprint live that people can demonstrate their units. And by then, hopefully, if what we see is correct, we will introduce a new technology. If we think we are correct, we've seen it to be correct, that you can convert any resistor into a non-resistive supply, which means you can add heaters, all sorts of resistive material into the circuit, but the box will see it as non-resistive, which means you can add 2 kilowatt, 4 kilowatt loads into the circuit. We think if we are correct, we have managed to bring that conversion in. It will be very small. It's the size of maybe 3 centimeter diameter, which you can actually add to your heaters like as an extra component, and the system doesn't see that resistive. And you can bypass it, so you can use it as a non-resistive load, but in the background is a heater element. This changes the whole structure. So we can go into the next step of mass production, small units that you can add, like adapters. It'll be more or less this size. Very much. We hope it can be done. The work is getting done in the background. All you do, for example, you add like an adapter like this into your plug. and you add the load, resistive load at this point. So the system doesn't sit. It looks more possibly can work, but if what we call cascading doesn't work, which, is too expensive, these can be marketed about €5 or €10 a piece. You can add to your system and plugs around the house to add to it. At the moment, the people who are using this system in their houses, they report very simple conditions. Every time you plug in and plug out, you see a movement on your meter, but then it stops, and it shows as total non-resistive load. So when you run your systems, after a few weeks, you should be able to run a system, hopefully non-resistive 0, resistive maybe 10-15% of the supply. But if what we see in our research comes correct, we should be able, hopefully by next week, if it shows the preliminary condition, to announce the production of a generator, which takes you off the grid altogether. It's 3-4 weeks now work has been done, and if the development completes, we bring it out as another Blue Day week, and we put it on, that you produce generators, you become off the grid totally. This is what a lot of people have been asking for, to become generator. This morning, I was working about 2-3 o'clock in the morning. It seems that the vibration we were looking for has been achieved. It's slightly, you should take another unit like this, but if the research completes and is done, as usual, we immediately bring it into production. What it's going to do, the way it's structured, there will be another unit like this next to it. Because it's volume, it has to be done the correct way, and if it works, it will be another unit next to this unit as its power supply. So, we stack this up, double the size as one unit. As we said, this is a change in the structure, change in technology, and we have to go through all its ups and downs and learning new things with it. Be careful, as I said, when you make these capacitors, how you do it, different people, you can see it on the internet, how it's done. It has to be very tight. It has to be in touch, complete. It cannot be loose. And you have to make sure there is no water moisture in your capacitors. And then what we do, we have used a special capsulation in our systems to capsulate it. And you have to do the same and make sure that the rings are slightly separate from each other. They don't touch each other. So the system, the unit is workable, and the first unit for delivery has left the factory. They are on their way to you according to what we've done, according to the first order, first delivery. So by Tuesday, hopefully, or by Monday, all the units which has been paid for should be on their way to your destinations. Be it the car unit, be it the power unit. By Monday, Tuesday of next week, the whole delivery will be completed. Any questions? Yeah. Yes, it has to be the same. On the load side, thank you very much for asking that question. For the load side, you still have to be careful.
Mr. Cash, can you repeat the question, please?
The question was that on the load side, we have to watch for positive, negative. The answer is yes. You have to, if you look inside this unit, if you can get close enough, Fabio? If you look close enough, you see there is a dot, a green dot, placed inside. That it guarantees, it shows you with the power supplies, once you come out of the system, is irrelevant with your appliances, because our appliances are set to work either way, except if you are like British system with the 3 plugs, 3-point pins. Most of the systems, you have to make sure the plug system is, but we've seen it. If you follow the plug system, it should be the same. One of the ways which is done now in the testing in the houses where it's tested is that is in the blueprint. You will see it. This is your meter from the government. You have your lines coming out, and then you have the lines coming from the grid. You connect this into the what you call the live wire. This is where your unit should go. You sit on the live line of the system. This manual is on the blueprint page. When you receive your unit, there's just one page on it with a link to the site where you have to look for instructions and connections. We are not producing any paperwork. You bought the technology on the internet. You should be wise how to use it. So you go on the internet to get the instruction how to use and just update it very rapidly. As it comes in, we update it. As we see things, we update it. And you can go to the blueprint page if you have problem with it. So you have one part which is for connection, and if you are producing something else yourself, you can put on the blueprint page. If you discover something new or different way that you see performance different way, send it to the webmaster of the Keshe Foundation. This is what I found out. We put it, we add it to the blueprint page. So we collectively add to the knowledge. This is how it seems and what it is. In the car unit, this is the power unit. In the car unit, you connect the system into part of your engine and to your battery from the 2 lines which they come out of your system. The physical picture of this, it'll be on the Maghreb car unit to show you where to connect it. We will not supply, or we will supply single line wires where you can connect into the cigarette lighter or to the power system. As you receive your unit, you'll see how it has been set up, or you can reset it yourself. So this is the total blueprint. Tomorrow, this is the copy of the key which was supplied to the ambassadors. Tomorrow morning, sometime tomorrow during the day, we load this on the internet. The way the patents were released, you saw this package being given to the ambassadors. Tomorrow we load this on the line. So if you're looking for a blueprint, the blueprint, this is a copy of the ambassador's key. There's some minor development which we keep on adding to it. So we'll download this on the website. You can download it and copy it. Any questions? You're scratching your head.
Mr. Keshe?
Yes.
This is Kal-El from America.
Yes.
I had a question or more of a comment, and it was concerning the car unit. I was actually entertaining a creative idea about taking nano coils and putting them on the starter, the alternator, and the battery to condition the car.
Pardon?
I was taking I was taking coils and I was putting coils on the starter the alternator and the battery of the cars.
Yeah.
As a form of conditioning the cars. And we were also starting to put a couple of nanowires inside of the gas tank and put a star formation underneath the gas tank, glue it underneath the gas tank with drops of ganses. And I just wanted your comments on it.
No comments. When I haven't tested, I can't tell you. It's like somebody walking in here yesterday and says, my gans was eaten by my dog. What can I do with it? He's laughing his head off. I don't know. I can't go to the dog and say, can I have it back? Or you go, is it okay? It's still alive. But it's faster than before. The dog. Both of them. These are the tests you do, so share the knowledge with us. You got to be careful. When we announce something here in the teachings, people go and do it, and then they say, you told us, this is what you said. This is what you tested, share it with us. There are different people doing different tests. There are people who are adding gas material in their batteries. There are people who are adding nanomaterials into the air filters. There are people who are connecting or nano-coating the spark plugs before they put it in. There's all sorts of activities goes on. You decide what it is, if it's better or it can change. We have seen conditions as we see, as we learn, we share. But you'll find out that, especially, for example, in your car system, batteries, power supply, there are no capacitors. You cannot put capacitors in a car unit. It has to be on a plate basis only because you change the power plasma. The battery supplies itself. We have no capacitors in these, or in some versions getting developed. We've taken out that because you don't need it. And you have to consider case by case. Don't forget there is research going on in the background. In the factory, literally the guys are testing new things as it comes. In the next couple of weeks, we'll release the way of new, what they call soft filtering system. Once we test it, will be released. There's a possibility that we will release a water unit in the next coming weeks. What it means, you can connect, if you are correct, you connect the water unit to this system internally, and all you do, you can take physical water from the system. It's in development, and once it's completed, we teach it. So you can eradicate any. We have seen the possibility of creating of up to, this is at the moment, theoretically can be done, up to 800 liters of water per day. It's a huge amount of water. You can literally produce, if you put your system the right way, up to 800 liter absorption of the gravitational magnetic field from the environment into one system. But this is, at the moment, has to be quantified. If we achieve 80, we'll be happy. But theoretically, we see that kind of, water production. Even if we can produce 10, 20 liters of water a day, it's a huge amount in the areas where there is a shortage of water. There's a lot of researches going on in the background, but as usual, we don't disclose our researchers, the developers, and this is how the structure will work. As I said to you yesterday, we gave the units to the ambassadors and the ambassador of Nigeria responding. We have put her in touch directly with Alex that tested the unit, And yesterday, the ambassadors from Rome and Alex in Nigeria, they were spoken, and they started the procedure for teaching and development of technology in Nigeria as of this morning, even though Alex has been teaching for past week, 10 days there. So we see how each government takes it and how they use it and how they evaluate it. Any questions? Any questions? Armon is so sad. It's okay. What we need to do is to be able to convert the knowledge very rapidly into commercial units. So we have done, we go to the next step, and we see how the other structure goes. The Keshe Foundation Japan, as a manufacturing, is already set up, started. So we've seen the Japanese gentleman who was with us from Japan in the ambassador meeting. They have put the things in motion to start manufacturing. And we'll see the same thing in the, hopefully in Germany in the coming weeks. Any questions?
Francois Philbont asks, if I had one more double coil versus a 3 double coil in that system, what kind of extra power can I expect to get from this?
Pardon?
If I had one more double coil in that system, what kind of extra power can I expect to get?
What do you mean by double coil? You mean put one more on the stacker, make it 4?
Yeah, versus the 3 double.
You saw a 10 stacker with Renan yesterday in the factory in the Philippines.
It's stacker ND or something, yes.
Yeah, you can. There is assumption that you can increase the power, but there is an easier way to increase the power. There is what we call the cascading. We looked at it; it works perfectly, but we can discuss that tomorrow. I think for today we have explained enough. Go to use your stacker unit as a power unit. Don't forget at the moment you are connected to the power. As we have achieved what we were looking for in a very soft way, we can expand it and develop it. We will hopefully in the coming weeks release the power generator. And this is what most of you were waiting for, but till it's not done, tested correctly, we keep to the same system.
Okay.
Pardon? Pardon? Oh, there was somebody talking. Okay. Pardon?
Is there a question at that end?
See you Monday.
See you on Monday. No problem. Any questions?
What is the polarity of the capacitors in the power side and the other side and another side?
On the power side, the negative has to sit from the incoming. Let me dry my hand. I had GANs on it. If you work so long with the GANs, you taste it when you have it on your skin. The texture of your mouth changes. The polarity is you put it on the live line. You put the negative side on the live line and the positive side on the neutral. It has to stay parallel in respect to the power.
The capacitor coils, how many turns would they have?
You can do up to 10s. That's what we do.
Someone asked, can we have the specs for the Philippines capacitors, please?
They are natural spot, 1.5 inch by 4 inches standard household capacitors. And they use 4 of them or 5 of them. It takes a huge capacity. I think If you have Renan on the line, maybe they've changed to plasma capacitors too. Renan, are you there? Can you see him online?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What was the question, sir?
I asked, have you changed to household capacitors or are you using plasma capacitors in your system?
Right now, sir, we're still using the conventional capacitors and some plasma for the new units that are making the plasma capacitors. But for the first units that are coming out, that are in production, we're using the conventional first, so we can sell already the existing designs. But we will be upgrading to plasma capacitors for the new sets that we'll be making.
The smaller one.
The smaller type, the same as the Magra power design, a smaller type of the design, because most of our designs are large 2.2 kilovolt and 3.4 kilovolt setups. So they're wall-mounted devices connected to the breakers. So the next designs will be using the plasma capacitors already. So it will be a tabletop, the same as the Magra Power, the blue unit there, a small one.
Let me explain something or ask you something. The stacker units you are using, you still use 160 and 80 rotation.
Yes, sir. The number of turns?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks very much indeed. He's trying to tell you something in the background.
Some of the wires is
Number 12 American wire gauge.
so we're using larger wires right now, sir. In gauge 12. What is available right now? We are using gauge 12. We're having trouble getting smaller wires, so we're using the gauge 12.
You're using what?
Gauge 12.
Gauge 12. What is available? Are you using the circuit breakers for temperature?
Circuit breakers, yes.
Yes, sir. We still use the circuit breakers.
Pardon?
That is available here.
Here. It's bigger. It's gone to 12. They can't find a 14. So in some tests, we go down to 16 in the diameter to reduce. There's a mixture which is getting developed. What is going to be a problem now is finding manufacturers who can produce to meet the demand of this bindings. We already are feeling it here in Italy to be able to produce 100,000 units a week with a recession in Europe in such a long time for 6-7 years. Manufacturers have to gear up to produce. So
Okay.
see that. Thank you very much, Renan. Anything else you can teach us?
All right, now, sir, we're just discussing here in the laboratory right now about, we have our new classmates here, so new recruits. So they are here. I'm teaching basics of guns making.
How many people have you employed, or do you employ there now?
We're just still in the factory, sir. We're using the existing manpower of Moistes. He has the existing manpower in this existing business. So the same people are using. So we're just keeping it safe level. So they work also overtime doing the units as well.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Can we have a look at this pen of yours you made? Do you have one?
What, sir?
The pen.
The pens. Okay, I'll get one, sir.
They produced a beautiful I think it's your dogs have too much CO2.
Yeah, the dogs here. Okay, here.
We have those. This is the
Still, I'm in the factory. Yeah. So this one is the casing, sir, that we are making. Is a wall. It's a big one. At the back.
this is your power supply.
Yeah, this is power, really power supply.
What is the kilowatt on this?
How many kilowatts ang majority to maximum?
7.5.
7.5, sir. Maximum 7.5.
7.5 kilowatt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. This for bigger house, medium size houses here, and some buildings who consume. So most of the market right now, our existing market, are already buildings. So those will be the first one who can be purchasing, and will be making small ones for the people that we will be giving away for the houses for the sale. So we'll sell it to the bigger clients first. Then we give free to the one who cannot afford.
Okay. So this is your 7.5 kilowatt power unit.
Yes, sir.
How many stacker unit do you use on this?
Only 3. Still 3. Capacitor. Eventually, we will replace this big bulky capacitors.
This is the capacitor you use, 4 of these or 5 of these.
Yes. So we can go from 3 to 10 capacitors for
You
industrial.
see, this is a difference. If there, we can share our camera with you, part share. These are the new plasma capacitors. It's okay. Can we have that? Can we still see? Can you show us here? These are your plasma capacitors.
This is the plasma capacitors, the initial one that we have made, and we tested it already. Then this was the we combined this. This is the first one we have tested, the coil, and with this capacitor, which stops some of the meters that we have connected. So
Okay.
so we're not yet producing the plasma capacitors because of the lack of guns. So from now, maybe after a few weeks from now, we can make more on these capacitors, because the conventional capacitors is expensive and has limitations for the rating. So we will eliminate the limitations eventually if we're using this plasma capacitors.
How many turns are on your plasma capacitors?
30 turns? Yes. 30 turns, sir. 30
Ah.
turns.
30 tons.
Gauge 12, we're using gauge 12, 30 turns on the outer coil.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Sweden. And your medical unit, we can see in your hand, your pen.
Yeah, this one, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sweden.
Okay.
Thank you
Welcome,
indeed.
sir.
So you see the setup and the structure is the same. Now that they have used to put everything in one load to achieve 7.5, we already have loaded here 7.5 kilowatts. We can go to 15. We can go up to 22 and up to 40 kilowatts. There's a procedure to do it. Much easier what they're doing in the Philippines, which we will teach how to do it with a very compact unit. So you can increase the power. You've got to realize one thing which will happen is do not plug your system in and go for the maximum to get whatever you got. You have to climatize your system in the house to achieve the total power. As I said, we are producing, hopefully, if it comes correct, which we think should be, to small units, but there is a way you can immediately increase the power consumption in the house to about 7.5 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt or 15 kilowatt. But we leave it till tomorrow or next week. Once people have built the same first units, then we go into high power units. The one thing which you will realize is, as we explained, tomorrow we will release the blueprint to be connected the right way. If you don't connect it the right way, every unit before leaving the factory here in Italy is getting tested. They go through a test for a couple of hours to see the drop in into the system, and if it is, and it shows the drop, the system gets sent out. So we test every unit, it's been done, and that's how we submitted things for certification. Any
Mr.
questions?
Keshe, there's someone that answered part of their question, but they also ask if you can show one being tested or running.
Pardon?
They're asking, well, they want to know if any of the units being sold are tested before they're sent, and you just
Yeah, that's what I just said.
yeah, and then they say, if yes, can you show one being tested or running?
Pardon?
Can you show one of the units being tested or running?
It's in the factory, not here. We don't test it here. The factory is nearly 1,000 kilometers away from here. Any other question?
There's a question, what kind of GANs are the Philippines people using?
You can use any kind of GANs. Whatever you produce in a structure, it stays as a GANs. You got to realize, this is what I just had a discussion before this morning, and I had this discussion for a long time with the people in the university and then with the nuclear people in Belgium. When you collect the material, what they only see when they test happened here with the Italian Nuclear Center in their report. So we explained to them, is that they see the property, for example, of CaCO3. But when they test it in Raman spectroscopy, they see the property of CO2. And they say there is no CO2. Well, because of the calcium in the water, it manifests itself chemically. When you look, there is no gas property. They look at it as a matter. But when you look at it in Raman spectroscopy and infrared spectroscopy, you see CO2. And all the scientists at the moment, they look at this, they say it's not gas, it's just a calcium, what do you call it, COC3. And we have it. When I explained this to the nuclear physicists here in Italy, when they tested, they said, yes, it's correct. Because they don't have a system, or they only look for chemical reaction because they see a material. But this is not. We just had this discussion with the people who are testing in Armenia. They don't have the expertise, and they just look at the matter state of the property. What do you call nickel or cadmium conductors. This is what we have to teach to the scientists. Otherwise, they say there is nothing.